Good morning, and thanks for choosing Fox 10 News on this Saturday morning, August 7th. Happy Saturday. I am Gianni Navarro. Let's first check in with meteorologist Jennifer Lambers. Matt Barentine has the morning off. And Jen, I see the tropics behind you. So far, everything's been calm. Hopefully it's staying that way.
Yeah, well, we are continuing to keep an eye just on a couple of areas out in the Atlantic right now. Luckily, the Gulf quiet, and just off the eastern coast, they're also quiet at this time. We're looking closer towards Africa and also the middle of the Atlantic at this time. Multiple areas that we're keeping an eye on. So it's important to remember we're in August. We are making our way already through the month. It's the 7th so far, and the peak is approaching for early September. So we are continuing just to monitor 3 different areas. This first one going to be the closest, approaching closer towards the southeastern Caribbean. Low chances over the next 5 days, 10%. And the reason for this is that all of these systems I'm going to be talking about, they're very slow moving, but all of them moving into favorable conditions. So this one, low chances over the next 5 days, going to be keeping a close eye on it, but most likely not going to be forming into anything. Now the one just behind it, starting to see these chances bump up over the next 5 days, 30%. This one looking a little bit more promising to form into something. Long-range models looking more conducive for environment for this one to move into. So keeping a close eye on this one just behind it. And then there's even more. There's one just emerging off the coast of Africa. Had higher chances just about 2 days ago, plus also yesterday. Those chances going down. This one really starting to fall apart. A good sight to see, and we'll continue just to keep an eye on the Atlantic at this time. But in case any of these do form, we've only moved through about 5 of our names so far through the season. That last one was just Elsa. So Fred and Grace are up next, and the National Hurricane Center along with Colorado State University calling for that above average season. So we're going to be breaking down those numbers, talking a little bit about it, plus also focusing on your weekend forecast coming up in just a little bit. Gianni.
We're not going to lock down our economy or our schools because our country is in a much stronger place than when we took office, thanks to the president's leadership in vaccinating the American people and getting an economic relief to those who need it.
The White House says the United States is not headed for another COVID-19 lockdown, although the highly contagious Delta variant is spreading throughout the country. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki comments come on the heels of a strong jobs report. President Joe Biden says more work needs to be done to vaccinate the rest of the country amid the Delta variant surge, but that the national vaccination program has so far resulted in 50% of the country getting fully vaccinated. With COVID-19 surging, Alabama health officials say there are 2 major weapons to combat COVID-19, vaccinations and masks. But health leaders are reluctant to make either of them mandatory. From the governor to the state health officer, Alabama is sticking with calls for voluntary action. Alabama State Health Officer Dr. Scott Harris painting a grim picture of the pandemic. Daily infections are running 10 times ahead of what they were in July. COVID-19 hospitalizations already are in record territory in Mobile and headed there statewide. Dr. Harris recommends wearing masks indoors and encourages vaccinations, but he rejects the idea of mandates.
Around the country, everybody's, really tired of this whole situation. I think the appetite for restrictions and mandates, is not the same as it was a year and a half ago, and we recognize that reality.
Alabama recently passed 2 million people who've gotten at least 1 shot and is averaging 10,000 shots a day over the last week. School superintendents across the state of Alabama joined state health officials on a conference call Thursday. State health officials encourage following guidelines set in place by the Centers for Disease Control. Those guidelines encourage everyone in school buildings to wear a mask. The agency supports university masking in grades kindergarten through 12th grade, but the ultimate decision will be that of each school system. According to health officials, the goal is to keep kids in school and avoid virtual learning. With proper spacing and masks, students won't have to quarantine if they are exposed to someone else who tests positive. And that's according to Alabama State Health Officer Dr. Scott Harris. Meanwhile, Mobile County public school leaders unanimously approve a mask mandate. Students will be required to mask up on campus, on school buses, at school-sponsored events and sporting events, unless outside where they can social distance. It came after a show of force from Mobile County's top medical doctors, urging them to require students and teachers to wear masks because of the recent surge in COVID cases.
This Delta variant is much more infectious than the Alpha variant, and this Delta variant is impacting children more. So about 6% of the patients in the hospital are less than 17 years of age.
Currently, we have 11 pediatric patients in the hospital, and 2 of them are in the pediatric ICU. And just to share, one of them is a 3-month-old child.
So we have the 2 strongest weapons right now. Our defense against COVID is vaccines and masking, throwing your hand hygiene and social distancing.
Yours is a very difficult decision to make, but it's not a hard one.
Meanwhile, some parents don't believe it's necessary and left outraged, while others feel the opposite.
I don't believe the masks work. I have proof from doctors that the masks don't work. I want them to show me the proof that they do. They don't have the authority to mandate anything on anybody. They don't have the authority to do that.
If she brings it home, I'm her primary caregiver. I have lupus. Yeah, okay, I'm vaccinated. But what if?
For now, the mask mandate is until further notice. Superintendent Threadgill says they'll continue to monitor the COVID numbers and seek input from medical experts before making a decision on how to move forward. Gulf Shore City Schools also requiring masks on campus as teachers and students head back to school next week. The announcement coming as the school system held a vaccination clinic for students over 12, staff, city employees, and other community members. The mask requirement applies to anyone on campus from 2nd grade up, whether they're vaccinated or not. School Superintendent Dr. Matt Aiken says it was a tough call to make and knows it won't make everyone happy. He also says any teacher or staff member who has been vaccinated but still gets sick will get 10 days of paid leave. Meanwhile, as schools are masking up and going forward, one school system is pumping the brakes. Faith Academy is delaying the first day of class by 3 weeks. In a last-minute move, Faith Academy leaders sent a letter to parents announcing a delay to the start of school due to the spike in COVID-19 cases, saying, quote, "The Delta variant is affecting the pediatric population of Mobile in an unprecedented manner. Our Faith family has been greatly impacted, from students to teachers to office personnel," end quote. Students will now go back Tuesday, August 31st, and meet the teachers will be August 30th. Faith Academy is the first school in Mobile and Baldwin counties this year to postpone.
You kind of go out on a limb when you do something different from everybody else, but you kind of just have to follow the wisdom that you feel like the Lord has given you.
Principal Barry Pickering adding he hopes the 3-week delay will give enough time for cases to go back down, and says they'll update parents at a later date on specifics of returning to class on the 31st. He says they will continue using a system they installed last year that kills COVID because it seemed to prevent any outbreaks at the school. Scary moments after a man walks into a Mobile bank with a knife demanding money, but it was the efforts of a Good Samaritan that prevented him from getting away. Police say 58-year-old Michael Hamilton robbed the Regions Bank on Cottage Hill Road. Witnesses say a Good Samaritan caught the suspect as he tried to leave the bank and brought him back inside. Amy Maples was inside at the time. She says when she saw what was happening, she had to get out of there because she had her young son with her, but is glad the community rallied around their own.
It's great to know that, a Good Samaritan did hold him to where he couldn't leave. And I'm thankful that, there were people around to have helped whenever I didn't have, the ability to do anything else myself.
Hamilton has been charged with first-degree robbery. As for the employees, we're told that they're all okay. Now to a follow-up. We're learning new details about a West Mobile police chase that resulted in 2 crashes and sent an innocent driver to the hospital. It happened Thursday night near the intersection of University Boulevard and Old Shell. The chase all starting because officers thought 22-year-old Don Travius Adams was involved in an armed robbery. That turned out not to be the case.
He struck two vehicles. One of the vehicles he struck, he kept going. The other one he struck kept going. One of the vehicles that he struck, someone sustained injuries in, so which at that point made it a felony.
MPD's pursuit policy allows chases, but supervisors need to look at the time of day and road conditions. It also depends why the chase started. Police say the driver Adams hit was injured, but not seriously. Adams also had to be looked at by EMS because of an abrasion on his face. During this short chase, Mobile Police activated the digital siren app, which alerts drivers of nearby police pursuits. Adams is facing a number of charges, including leaving the scene of an accident.